GT3 for True Speed Autosport, run out of Southern California. And on the pole in GT-AM, 8th on the starting grid, Rodrigo Baptista in car number 3. That's a Bentley Continental GT3 run by K-Pax Racing and in conjunction with the Flying Lizard Group. On the 7th position on the grid, Scott Hargrove in car number 96. That's the Pfaff Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R. That car was quick through practice yesterday. Unfortunately, this morning in qualifying, Scott Hargrove had an incident, and that team was left with quite a lot of work to do before the start of today's race. He will line up in the 7th position. 6th on the grid, Alvaro Parente in the Bentley Continental GT3 for K-Pax Racing with Flying Lizard Motorsports. That is car number 9 for Alvaro Parente from Portugal, former series champion. 5th on the grid, Daniel Morad in car number 2. That's the Mercedes AMG GT3 for CRP Racing. Onto the second row of the grid on the outside, car 00 is the Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3 for the TRG Group, the Racers Group out of Petaluma, California. Can't miss that car. It sounds absolutely glorious with its V12 engine. Spencer Papelli will be at the wheel of that machine during this race. Car number 26, Daniel Karlowitz from Germany, making his first start in North America in the Callaway Competition USA Callaway Corvette C7 GT3R. And a fine debut it has been so far. He will line up 3rd on the grid. Moving on to the front row, making his debut also in the Pirelli World Challenge, is Michael Christensen from Denmark in the Allegra Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R. That is car number 24. The cars are just starting their second pace lap prior to the start of this race. It will be green next time around. Allegra Motorsports, by the way, is based in Tampa, Florida. So there's a car to cheer on. Car number 24 for Michael Christensen. And on the pole position, also making his debut in the Pirelli World Challenge this weekend for R. Ferry Motorsport in a Ferrari 488 GT3. Quickest in both of the practice sessions. Fastest again in qualifying this morning aboard car number 61, all the way from Finland, is Tony Vilander. That is our starting lineup for today's race. It'll be 50 minutes in length. And with the weather conditions, as we can see here, if you're on the ground, it's dry at the moment. We've had a few sprinkles, a brief shower a little while ago. The skies are grey, and whether we will get some more rain, well, we will find out pretty shortly. It was a bit of a guessing game for the teams out in the paddock area before they brought their cars to the grid. Maybe half an hour ago, they were thinking, well, maybe we're going to need wet weather tyres. But no, it's dry at the moment. All of the 11 starters are on slick Pirelli P0 tyres for the start of this race. The field is beginning to group together on the run through the final couple of corners, getting ready for the green flag. It'll be Tony Vilander and Michael Christensen on the front row. Daniel Karlowitz and Spencer Papelli on row 2. Daniel Morad and Alvaro Parente on row 3. Scott Hargrove and Rodrigo Baptista on row 4. Then Parker Chase and Yuki Hirata. And bringing up the 11 car field, Martin Fuentes from Mexico City in car number 07. The pace car is a classic BMW M4. Leads the car through the final couple of corners, through that very fast chicane that caught out Scott Hargrove this morning. Now into the final turn 13 and 14. The sweeping right-hander that leads them onto the runway here at the Alfred Whitted Municipal Airport in St. Petersburg. The safety car will pull onto pit lane. It will leave Tony Vilander in charge of the field as they bring the starters up toward the green flag. Steady, steady, steady. The green flag waves, and Tony Vilander gets the power down beautifully. And the Callaway Corvette from 3rd on the grid dives to the inside. He's looking to make a move. It's 3-4 abreast going into turn 1. Karlowitz makes a move down the inside, but he carries way too much speed. Goes straight on at the first corner. Oh, there's a contact there for that. Oh, my goodness, there's a Bentley in the wall. The other Bentley was fortunate not to get involved in that as well. And also Parker Chase is involved there as well. So the yellow flags are waving. This will be a full course caution. But, well, Daniel Karlowitz, it was looking good for a few seconds, but then he realised he was carrying too much. Oh, no, there's Spencer Papelli in the wall as well. We've got 3 of the cars in difficulties. Daniel Karlowitz in that Callaway Corvette has got the car back underway again. He had to go straight on into the escape road at turn 1, carrying way too much speed at the apex. There's an experience for you in North America. And that will bring out the full course caution. But most of the cars that we believe are going to be able to continue. But Spencer Papelli in that 00 Aston Martin, the LaSalle Solutions Adobe Road Winery car, that looks like its day is done. Also car number 9, that's a series champion from 2 years ago. Damage to the front end of the K-Pax Bentley Continental. Parker Chase in the True Speed Autosport Audi. Doesn't appear to be any damage in that car, but clearly the engine isn't running at the moment. We'll have to see whether he can get that car underway. Jeff Lepper has hot-footed it up here to join me in the booth. And Jeff, that was a bit of a disastrous start, unfortunately.
It sure was. And I think with the track conditions and the rain and the weather, 2 pace laps around the 1.8, a lot of folks fighting for position down there in turn number 1, that caused that pandemonium there. I think a little too exuberant. You can't win it on the first corner, but you can definitely lose it.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened to a bunch of these guys. And really what happened to Alvaro Apprentice, it was tough to see because the whole schmozzle down there at turn 1 was really caused by Daniel Karbets diving down to the inside of him. He was clearly right up tight against the wall. Tony Villander squeezed him right down close to that wall, but there was a car width in there, so he went for that gap, did Karbets. Unfortunately, he was carrying way too much speed when he got to the apex, so that meant nobody else behind him could turn in. So everybody else had to go straight initially as well. They were able to shuffle their way around, but it is Daniel Morad who came out with the lead of this motor race. He started in the 5th position, but he's made it through to the front. And as in all of the other races so far today, the pole sitter, I don't think has made it through the lead through turn 1, has he, Jeff?
No, I think in the USF 2000, Pro Mazda, and all those races, never made it on the Indy Lights. So, but what a great start for Daniel Morad, just perfect timing. And how about Martin Fuentes at number 07 Hublot Ferrari up into 5th overall, first in our AM category. I think with a lot of the chaos there. Not sure what happened with the Aston Martin. And you saw Lavella Parent get turned there a little bit earlier into the left wall. And poor Parker Chase, just nowhere for him to go. Had to try to avoid the Bentley coming across his nose. He sort of just nosed it in the wall, but quite possibly popped that car out of gear. And once that happens, you have to pull the car back into neutral, do a full reset, and all the computers on these cars get that car refired again and try to get going. Unfortunately, Parker Chase loses a lap.
Yeah, has he even got going at all yet? I haven't seen that car come around, I don't think. So right now we're missing 3 of the 11 starters. That's not a good way to start this race, but there's certainly going to be some quick guys here going to be working their way up the order, including Daniel Karbets. He's going to take the restart at the back of the field in the 7th position, 8th position, but he's certainly got a fast car. We've seen that, and if he can be a little bit more patient once we get back to green flag racing, maybe he can work his way through toward the front of the field. That's certainly his intention. Got a lot of success in Germany and in Europe in general, has Daniel Karbets, particularly in the ADAC Masters Championship. He's finished in the top 3 in 5 of the last 6 years. He's also a former winner of the FIA GT3 Championship as well. So a lot of experience, just not experience here or in North America, number 1, and number 2 on a temporary circuit where, as we're watching the field coming through turn 1, you can see those painted lines at the end of that runway 7 here at the Alfred Whittard Municipal Airport. And those painted lines, particularly with that little bit of moisture we had earlier on, maybe about an hour before the start of this race, during IndyCar qualifying, in fact, makes it really, really slippery. Daniel Karbets found out that to his cost.
That's Parker Chase, unfortunately, holding his left arm down a little bit, and you have to be prepared on that steering wheel with the way the wheels are really molded around your fingers. If you have the wheel turned or cocked a little bit when you go into the wall, it can snap that wheel. It looks like his left arm might have got a little bit of a force or left hand there, so hopefully he'll be okay, but he looks like he is out of his car, so we will not see the youngster in the Audi R8. 17 years old, just turned 17 here a few days ago in that Audi R8. No fault of his own, just trying to avoid an incident, and unfortunately it puts him out of the race. Daniel Morad first. Go back to second. Scott Hargrove had a big incident in that car in the qualifying session. Took the right front off that Porsche. They had some damage to the bodywork. All brand new components on the right front. Steering rack, A-arms, upper arms, upright, brake rotor, brake caliper, wheels, all replaced on Scott Hargrove's car. That Fat Father Motor Team doing a great job to get him back underway, sitting in P2, and Vilander there back in 3rd.
Yeah, he was able to salvage the position there, 3rd place there for Tony Vilander, our pole sitter. He was one of the guys that was just unable to turn into turn 1 because the Callaway Corvette was in his path. So he had to wait for Karbets to scoot on through, and once he was passed and down the escape road, then Tony Vilander was able to turn into the corner. But by that time, a couple of cars had got past him. He was perhaps lucky not to get some involved in any contact there as well.
And as we saw at Circuit of the Americas a little while, we'll have to wait and see if Kyle Witzel is going to any further penalties at all of that. You may not make contact, but if you cause an incident, even if there is no contact, there still could be penalties to happen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens if that was if the race officials, Brian Hill, Peter Roberts, Brian Hughes, determine if that was a over driving, so to speak, maybe an exuberant move there going to the inside like that. And we'll have to wait and see if there's going to be any further penalties. Not sure what happened with Spencer Pompelli. That's a little bit later on where he is stopped. So not sure if there was some damage earlier from the contact with the Bentley and Parker Chase.
Yeah, one assumes that to be the case. Certainly Daniel Karwitz, he's pretty much penalised himself, hasn't he, going to the back of the field. I don't think he was really involved in the other three cars getting together. That was sort of later in the corner, because he was, by that stage, he was already halfway to Clearwater down the escape road there. But what it did cause, of course, was a big mess behind him. All these cars shuffling position, and they were much closer than they really needed to be as they headed into turn 2. It funnels down there the racetrack in turn 2. We've seen a lot of incidents there in the past. Unfortunately, another one to start this race as well. So still under caution, but still plenty of time to go in this race. Still got well over 40 minutes. We'll take a bit of a breather and get ready for the restart once they've got those cars out of harm's way.
I want to give a huge thank you to our Pirelli World Challenge safety crew. They had the Chevrolet right behind the full field there, going behind them to pull down and make sure that if something was to happen on the first lap, they could be right on scene. And they were handling those two vehicles there on the exit of turn number 1. So getting that done there. And it's one of those things that's better to have it and not need it than it is to need it and not have it. So we really appreciate them being there to do that.
Very true. And a big thank you also to all the corner workers and the marshals here and the volunteers, without whom this Grand Prix of St. Petersburg wouldn't take place. Hats off to everybody who's involved in the organisation process here, and all of the volunteers who put their time into making this event the success that it is. It's long days for everybody, but boy, what an event we turn out here every year on the streets of St. Petersburg. Glorious setting here, isn't it, with downtown just behind us, away from the airport, and then the harbour front here as well. It really is a glorious setting. Great place to go racing, and a really challenging racetrack that the drivers and teams all thoroughly enjoy. So still under caution, and run down the order for you. It's car number 2, Daniel Morad, that leads the way. In second place is car number 96, Scott Hargrove. In third place, the pole sitter, Tony Villander, that's car 61. Michael Christensen, who started alongside on the front row, is in fourth position in car number 24. Then there's a 07 of Martin Fuentes, who started 11th at the tail end of the field, up into the 5th position, now ahead of Rodrigo Baptista, the surviving Bentley car number 3. Then Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini car number 55. Daniel Karwitz in the number 26 Callaway Corvette. Unfortunately, they're the only 8 cars that are running. We see the sister Bentley being towed away. Extensive damage to the front end of that car. That's going to take a lot of work overnight to get that car back out tomorrow. That's the K-Pax Racing with Flying Lizard Motorsport entry. And yeah, severe front end damage. And Parker Chase, number 19 Audi for True Speed Autosport, and Spencer Pompelli in the TRG Aston Martin also appear to be taking no further part in the proceedings this afternoon.
That K-Pax Racing team, Jim Huey, team owner there, I know that team has enough parts and pieces to get that Bentley back underway, assuming there's no chassis damage to that. I know we want to try to get as many points. There's still a race tomorrow for these these gentlemen here in the GT category, so they're going to want to try to get these cars fixed up and back underway as quickly as possible. No practices or anything tomorrow, so that's going to be a fresh car having being rebuilt overnight. You feel for the crews, that's the worst part. But especially in our GT4 race coming up next with GTS category and those GT4 homologated cars, we got 28 of those cars, so a little bit more pandemonium. Hopefully not, but with 28 cars in that category, and they race first thing in the morning tomorrow. So not first thing, obviously there's a couple of support races before that, but that's not a lot of turnaround time if they have a problem. So I know a lot of these teams, the unsung heroes all throughout here, are all these team members and these crews that prep and maintain these cars. Usually the driver gets the glory, but you got to give all the prep work and all the maintenance and everything that gets done to these cars to these teams. And it looks like a few of these in our GT category working a late night tonight.
Yeah, it does. Not exactly the way they didn't want to start this season, that's for sure. They want to get through clean here because they've got another couple of races just in 2 weeks' time at Circuit of Americas over in Texas. So to leave here with damage and then have to repair the cars again for 2 weeks' time isn't good. And even worse than that, they've got to repair the cars again for tomorrow. Let's have a look at the restart, a replay of the start once again. And you can see Daniel Karwitz he's trying to be ushered over towards the wall by Tony Villander, but he just left his braking too late. Actually, Villander left his braking a little bit too late as well. That enabled Daniel Morid to get the car wound up at the apex of the corner and take the lead as they went through turn one. And then in the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th behind them, a whole big mess there in turn 2 as well. Damage to 3 cars.
Spencer Pompelli, you see right front damage to his car. It looks like he was on the inside of Alvaro Parent. Not sure what was the cause of his issue or not. Looks like he's say hi to Spencer. I know that's tough for Spencer Pompelli there in that racers group, LaSalle Solutions, Aston Martin V12. And if you weren't around for qualifying or any of the action yesterday, the sound that comes out of that Aston Martin and that V12, truly glorious coming down the front stretch here. We got flat 6 in the Porsche, the V8, the twin turbocharged V8, the V10 in the Audis, and the 12-cylinder in the Aston Martin. Really get a pick your poison on what kind of cars you like here in the Pirelli World Challenge, all the different makes and manufacturers that we have. Getting word that the 1.9 of Parker Chase in that Performance Motorsports Group Audi R8 LMS was trying to get that car back down on pit lane. They can hook it back up, get all the computers reset, put that youngster back in the car, and he can at least try to go out. The way that the point structure works, too, if you can complete half of the laps of the overall race leader, you get scored for points. So 4 AM cars here this weekend, he can still salvage 4th place points, assuming nothing else happens with the 3 drivers that are still there, Martin Fuentes, Rodrigo Baptista, and Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini. If they don't have any problems, there's still a good chance that Parker might even get a podium out of this if that can get that car back to their pit area and get all the computers reset on that car.
Yeah, and what a disappointment there for Spencer Pompelli, a former winner here on the streets of St. Petersburg a couple of years ago in the GTS division, driving a Ford Mustang on that occasion. But this time he doesn't get beyond the he made as far as the 3rd corner, I suppose, but clearly that car damaged to the right front suspension, or presumably to the toe link to the suspension arm, to the steering arm, and unable to have any steering input. And at the end of that car's day, there's another replay again of this incident. All the cars, Spencer Pompelli got kind of squeezed wide there, and he and Alvaro Parent just made contact there right on the exit of turn, right up against that wall on the left-hand side of the racetrack. It's kind of an unusual incident to take place there, and most unfortunate, both of those two. And for Parker Chase, nowhere to go either, just kind of trapped on the outside line.
Yeah, and you saw, I don't think Spencer was really at fault there. He was just wrong place at the wrong time. Got into kind of the pit maneuver there for Alvaro Parent, so left side damage and then the right side damage when he came across the track with really no steering, no brakes. I'm sure there's a lot of damage to the left front wheel already on that car. But Daniel Murad, really the deal in this program with that DeVilbiss Mercedes from CRP Racing came together last week. It was only announced this week that he would be the driver in that car, and the success that he had behind the wheel with Ryan Dial at VIR, holding off 2017 Pirelli World Challenge overall GT champ Pat Long lap after lap during his stint, and then ultimately giving the car over to Ryan Dial and then clinching their first win in the debut of race number 2 at Virginia International Raceway, I think solidified his ride in that car for this season, and really glad to have him behind the wheel. We're hoping for the announcement on who was going to be his co-driver here in the Sprint X category coming up in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas. So trying to get that out of Nick Short is sort of like pulling teeth. It might be one of those. We'll have to wait and see what happens when we're on track at Austin.
That's right, and Daniel Murad also, he started off the season and his career in the Pirelli World Challenge with that win in race 2 at VIR, ended the season last year with a win at Circuit of the Americas as well, so bookended that season for him in the Sprint X with a victory, and so he comes into this season, very much on a roll. Qualifying didn't go the way he wanted, certainly, down in the 5th position, but he was only just about a half a second off the ultimate pace set by Tony Villander, so that's not a bad effort at all. And now he finds himself in the lead of this race as a result of that schmozzle down in turn 1 and 2.
And with that team, CRP Racing, stalwart here in the Pirelli World Challenge, they've been around for about I think, 10 or 11 years now, straight through in Pirelli World Challenge. Ran Corvettes for a little while, and then the Nissan GTR here at St. Pete, and then moving into this Mercedes-Benz AMG, really doing superb job prepping that car, getting it ready here, and a lot of support from Hawk Performance throughout the years as well. So a lot of good stuff for Nick Short, and now Daniel Murad behind the wheel leading here right away. So good for that team and that driver. But Scott Hargrove, when you talk about good stuff for teams, that Pfaff Automotive, no major engine change or gearbox changes in that car. He was still able to start from his qualifying position and stay away. And it kind of, the problems that you have qualifying 7th, you see an incident like we have down here in turn number 1, Jeremy, it sort of makes it more of a blessing than a heartache that you had during qualifying.
Yeah, that's true, because you're able to you just be, there's no point in being over-aggressive at the start when you're in that sort of a position. Just wait and pick up the pieces that come your way, and that's exactly certainly what Daniel Murad did, and various other contenders as well. Martin Fuentes in particular. I mean, he hung back a little bit at the start, was able to pick his way through, and now he's running in the 5th position in this race and leading the AM class over Rodrigo Baptista. Yuki Hirata is right with him as well. It's going to be quite a battle when we get back to green between those three, I think. Yuki Hirata, youngster from Japan. He was a downhill ski racer with some success. He was a multi-time Asian champion in downhill, but unfortunately won too many knee injuries a few years ago. That ended his skiing career, so he's decided he needed to find a new passion. Well, he went to the Dream Racing Motorsport Academy, if you like, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, drove the Lamborghinis there for the first time, and he figured right away, hey, this is my new passion, this is it, motor racing for me. And he raced last year for the very first time, did a really good job, drove a lot of races last season in a bunch of different series. He's picked up a lot of experience along the way, and he started out this season pretty strong. It wasn't particularly strong in qualifying yesterday, but still learning this GT3 car, and he's expected to be a contender all the way through this year.
Looking at the AM category, when you talk about Yuki, that Dream Racing, that's based out in Las Vegas Motor Speedway there. Come out and pick an exotic car. A little over, I think, 130 cars now you have a chance to choose from and drive out at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, go through the whole school. And Yuki happened to take a trip to Las Vegas, and I believe his mother bought him that package to go out there and drive an exotic car on the track, and liked it so much and said, can I race with this? And they started coaching, brought him up, went to the GT Cup category last year, won the championship there. Now here into GTA category. Lights off, we're on our pace car as we're ready to go back to green, as Daniel Murad in that DeVilbiss Mercedes will lead the field here back to green with about 31 minutes still to go. So a lot of racing still to go here around the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida.
And hopefully this time we can keep it clean. Daniel Murad there weaving around, trying to build some heat into those Pirelli P0 tires. The green flag is waving. We are racing again here on the streets of St. Pete. Daniel Murad again weaving that car around the straight a little bit. He's got a healthy lead again under the turn 1. Scott Hargrove in second place, Tony Vilander in third. At the back of the field, Daniel Kalwitz already making a move on Yuki Hirata for position.
Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley tried to go on the inside, little over-under on Martin Fuentes on the exit of turn number 1. Got that Bentley a little loose. He recovers, but everybody's staying in line. There is Martin Fuentes, Rodrigo, and you see Daniel Kalwitz trying to work his way back through the field. He got around Yuki Hirata, flashing the lights on that Callaway Corvette, trying to work his way around Baptista and Fuentes.
A lot of experience in Corvettes, in Callaway Corvettes in particular, for Daniel Kalwitz, so he knows these cars inside out. What he's not quite so familiar with is street circuits. Has raced on street circuits in the past, but certainly not as many races as he will encounter this year in the Pirelli World Challenge. So he's got to learn to be a little bit patient here this afternoon into turn 10. Not able to make a move there on Baptista. Still tucks back into line, flashing those lights furiously and still looking for a way past. In the meantime, out of turn 14 comes Daniel Murad in that orange DeVilbiss Mercedes with a goodly lead. He's extended that margin just a little bit over Scott Hargrove on this lap. Tony Vilander settling into third place. Michael Christensen in fourth. Then a gap back to Martin Fuentes. And now Baptista under pressure from Dark Kalwitz, who looks to the inside under braking, side by side through turn 1. That's going to be dodgy.
It sure is, and Rodrigo Baptista does not want to give that position up, does not want that Callaway to come in between himself and the leader, Martin Fuentes, in our AM category. It is two different classes here in the GT, and the way to distinguish between the two is you see on that Bentley there, the gray windshield banner. The black banner on that Callaway Corvette signifies the Pro category versus the Am in front, and that Bentley does not look happy. You can see it twitching back and forth over the bumps here on St. Petersburg. They go through a parking lot, back on city streets, then they come out onto a runway. A lot of different asphalts and degrees off-camber corners here at St. Petersburg.
There are indeed. It's certainly a challenging racetrack, and Daniel whoops, he gets he gets gifted that position because Baptista probably looking in his mirrors a little bit too much there. Left his brake in a little bit too late going to turn 10, goes straight on. Performs a nice little spin turn to Rodrigo, the Brazilian. Good job. Although, he's finally got it going again. So he's going to resume at the back of the field.
Yeah, I saw the headlights turn off, so it was trying to get that car restarted. Scott Hargrove closing a little bit down there in the braking zone, and Michael Christensen closing in a little bit on the back of Vilander in the Ferrari. Still 20, like I said, we got the green with 31 minutes to go, and now 28 minutes to go, so a lot of racing still to go here.
Yeah, there certainly is, and fastest lap of the race that time around was Michael Christensen in the 4th placed Porsche, the Allegra Motorsports entry, car number 24, turned a 1 minute 13.6, which compares to the pole time set this morning, 1 minute 10.9 for Tony Vilander. That, of course, on very little fuel and fresh tyres. So these cars are still relatively heavy with fuel at this stage in the race. And Daniel Morad is still leads, but only a couple of car lengths behind him now is Scott Hargrove. Hargrove, plenty of success here on the streets of St. Petersburg in the past. A winner in USF 2000 on his way to the championship in 2013. Also a podium finisher in Pro Mazda, a podium finisher a couple of years ago in Indy Lights here as well on the streets. So he knows how to win here, does Scott Hargrove. And now he's shadowing that Mercedes, and he's going to look for a way past. Closes right up into braking there. In second place does Hargrove. As we see, Daniel Karwitz making another move for position. And he's passing Martin Fuentes into turn 1. So Karwitz now up into 5th position. That's the good news. The bad news is he's got about 4.5 seconds to make up over Michael Christensen.
Got word down on pit lane that Parker Chase said his car, when he put it in reverse and tried to back up, it was stuck in reverse and wouldn't come back out. And like we said, when you're in a gear and you just tap the wall and it jerks the transmission, sometimes the software will just lock it into that gear as a safety mechanism. They have the car back in pits. They're trying to get all that reset so he can get back underway, still sitting on pit lane.
Yeah, shame for the youngster there, certainly. This battle for the lead is intensifying, isn't it? Daniel Morad is coming under increasing pressure from Scott Hargrove, and Tony Vilander, he's kind of biding his time there in 3rd place, but he knows, he's got plenty of experience. He might not have much experience in the Pirelli World Challenge, but he's got plenty of experience of racing and plenty of experience in these Ferraris as well, so he knows exactly what it takes to win.
Porsche's going to be better in their braking. Hargrove down to the inside, all over the brakes. Morad trying to close the door on them. They're side by side through the exit of turn number 1. Morad's going to have to line here through turn number 2, and then out through turn number 3 here. Hargrove pressuring the DeVilbiss Mercedes of Morad.
The two Canadians are going hammer and tongs here. They've had a bit of a history between these two. They've been battling for the GT3 Cup Porsche Championship in Canada several times over the last few years. They've each won championships up there, but they've had various incidents as well along the way. I hope there's no incidents though this afternoon, because they're pretty good buddies, I think. They get along fairly well, moderately well together. They're both really nice guys, anyhow, let's put it that way. And I'm sure they won't want to come together here, but if they battle too much amongst themselves, and that's going to give Tony Vilander an opportunity to get there and maybe look for the lead as well. And Michael Christensen, well, he's right with them as well, also, isn't he, in 4th position?
Yeah, you saw how quick that was. Once those two cars got side by side, Vilander right on the back bumper, shower of sparks coming up underneath that Mercedes as he hits the bumps through the chicane into turn number 14 and back on the straightaway here. It was 1.4 seconds to Vilander from the lead as they cross the line. It's going to be a lot closer than that as Vilander closes now within 1.2, so starting to close that gap a little bit. Hargrove, better part of Valor this time, decides to tuck back in behind the Mercedes, maybe try to see and try to pick the weaknesses on where he might be able to get around that Mercedes later on.
And Karlowitz, 2 really quick laps there. 1 minute 12.650, new fastest lap of the race last time around, last 2 laps actually for Daniel Karlowitz in car number 26. He's currently about almost 4 seconds behind Christensen in the 5th position, Karlowitz, but clearly at this stage in the game has the fastest car on the track. Boy, that Porsche's got good straight line speed, hasn't it? Able to draw up onto the tail of the Mercedes heading down the long runway here toward turn 1. And Morad really having to work hard on the brakes to keep the Porsche behind him.
He does. You can see Hargrove looking to the inside, kind of flashing the lights a little bit, trying to do anything he can to get Daniel off of his game. Daniel trying not to make it a mirror race here, but Tony Vilander still closing in. Christensen dropped back a little bit here, and we'll see if he can get a good run here out of 14. Can Hargrove get the draft and try to make a move down in turn 1? He's got to be pretty well clear of the Mercedes down here in turn number 1. I don't think he's got enough to make the move right now. But Daniel Morad still leading the field. Hargrove going down to the inside again. A little side-by-side touch there. Morad's going to have the advantage here, though, down to the inside. Hargrove has to get out of it. Now Vilander onto the backside of Hargrove. Vilander's going to have the momentum coming down here into turn number 4. He protects down to the inside. Vilander pressuring Hargrove now. Battle for first for the top 3.
So you don't need 30-odd cars to have a great motor race, do you? We've got a fabulous battle for the lead here. Good respect there between the two Canadians. Clearly there was a recipe for disaster. They headed side-by-side into turn 2. That corner's just about flat out in these cars, but you've got to be really on the edge there, through there. So going in there side-by-side, there's more chance of crashing than making the pass, probably, and Scott Hargrove realised that, backed out just a little bit, and Daniel Morad able to trust his rival there and keep his lead, but not by very much. This is a tremendous battle between these two drivers. Both of them came up through the open wheel ranks and now carving their careers in sports cars.
God, get to see a $500,000 GT3 sports car banging it off the curbs, bouncing it around, sparks flying as they come through the chicane. This is how racing should be. Pirelli World Challenge action here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Hargrove back to the inside. Daniel Morad. Oh, they make contact again. Hargrove to the outside. Vilander's going to get around him now. He's going to have to protect that third place. I'm not sure if there's a problem there. Big sparks out of the back of the Mercedes.
Yeah, there was maybe a little bit of contact. There was a late lunge to the inside by Hargrove there. That car got tremendous straight line speed, but he's got Tony Vilander now all over the back end of the Porsche. Still, both of them now past the Mercedes. Michael Christensen right there in 4th place, and look who's right behind them as well. Yes, that's Daniel Karlowitz, who continues to turn the fastest laps of the race. He's lapping in the 12s, 112.189 a couple of laps ago. That is the fastest lap of the race so far.
Yeah, 112.5 the previous lap. He's lapping, well, obviously with the, as the great Calvin Fish would say, a little argy-bargy there with the front leaders. That's allowing him to put those laps down and just put his head down and catch to the back of this field now. 5-car battle for the overall GT lead here. You got to go back to Martin Fuentes still leading in our AM category, and Yuki Hirata in 2nd and Rodrigo Baptista in 3rd, but it's the top 5 battle for the overall lead here in GT.
And that Porsche, once again, really good straight line speed. The Porsche needs the Ferrari, needs the Mercedes, needs the Porsche, needs the Callaway Corvette. He's looking to the inside there, but no, not quite close enough to make a move down into turn 1. Here's Karlowitz, has to tuck in behind in the 5th position. Scott Hargrove, he's got his nose in front now. He's got a good fast car. Clearly that car is really quick on the straights here. Tony Vilander able to make no ground on him at all on the front straight, unlike the previous few laps where we could see Hargrove certainly had the edge, particularly at the end of the straight, and then under braking for turn 1. That Porsche a little bit more fleet than the Mercedes-Benz at that point on the track, and that's what enabled Hargrove to finally make that dive for the inside and grasp the lead. He had to work hard for it, though.
Sure does. Scott Hargrove trying to do what he can to stay in front of that R. Ferry Motorsports Ferrari 488. And Remo Ferri, if you're watching there, I know you're in Italy taking care of the team owner of R. Ferry Motorsports, watching Tony Vilander. Welcome back here to Pirelli World Challenge. Started the season last year, just had a couple miserable races here at the beginning of the season, and took the rest of the year off to focus on this year. And Tony Vilander, fastest in all practices and qualifying, and sitting in 2nd right now. And here comes Karlowitz down to the inside. You see Christensen protect. Corvette goes back to the outside. Christensen back to the inside now. Can Karlowitz try to protect? A little bump there. Let him know he's there, but he's going to make that move here, I think, sooner rather than later.
These two have done quite a bit of racing together in Europe over the years. And Karlowitz, he was certainly looking to make that move to the inside, but Christensen said, oh, no, you don't. I'm going to defend that inside line down to turn 1. And that he's able to maintain that position. But what a battle this is between the Porsche and the Callaway Corvette.
Watching Christensen there in that InSync Allegra Motorsports team based here in Florida with that car. Winners of the 24 Hours of Daytona last season. Ironically enough, Daniel Morad, Michael Christensen, teammates in that car winning that race, and here they run third and fourth on the track.
That's right. Scott Hargrove, he's just turned his best lap of the race so far. 1 minute 12.626 for a race leader in the Pfaff Motorsports, that Castrol liveried Porsche. Great looking car, isn't it? And in second place, Tony Villander, he's been the pace setter all the way through this weekend so far. He was quickest in both practice sessions yesterday, fastest in qualifying this morning. But right now, it is Scott Hargrove who's stretching the legs of that Porsche and making a bit of a gap out front. In the meantime, there goes Garwitz to the inside. There's a bump between them in the middle of the apex of turn one. The Corvette is through.
Yeah, you see the Callaway Corvette and the Porsche side-by-side contact. You see these exotic sports race cars door to door here in the streets of St. Pete. Kowitz up into that fourth place now. Christensen back to fifth. See if he can recover. Just not quite up to the speed with the leaders is Christensen so far on the streets here. That team, though, we know they can make it happen. Kowitz now recovering, starting back in the 8th position on that restart. Up to 4th now. We'll see if he can run down Daniel Morad a little bit as a top 3, starting to get about a 10-car width gap between the 3 of them.
You've got to love the sound of that rumbling Chevrolet V8, haven't you? And Daniel Kowitz has got the hammer down. He's made that pass for position, and now he's going to chase after that leading trio. I'm sure it won't be long before he's right with them as well. But in the lead of the race, it is still Scott Hargrove, who's must have made a mistake on that lap, because all of a sudden, Tony Villander is an awful lot closer as they come past the line. Hargrove leads now by about half a second. He pulled in about 0.8 of a second on that last lap. I don't know where, but I think Hargrove must have made a mistake somewhere. And Tony Villander now is right with the race leader, first and second, threading the needle through turn 2 and 3 onto that bumpy straightaway towards turn 4. Scott Hargrove able to maintain his racing line, not having to defend a position there, but he's certainly under increasing pressure from Tony Villander.
Looking back at our AM category, Rodrigo Baptista in that Bentley has closed the gap now down after that earlier mistake in that runoff area in his K-Pax Bentley, the number 8 blue Bentley. 6 seconds now behind Yuki Hirata for that second place. It still is Martin Fuentes, has about a 7-second lead over second place in that Lamborghini, but Rodrigo Baptista lapping about a half a second quicker than the 2 leaders in our AM category, trying to recover after that earlier mistake and working his way up. But here is Villander. You can see the gap now. That was 0.6 seconds before, 0.7 now. So Scott Hargrove extends it out by 1/10 of a second, and it's that close, 1/10 to a half. You can't even say it fast enough as it happens.
Yeah, that's right. And Hargrove responded there. He set his fastest lap of the race, 1:12.489 on that last lap. That matched pretty much the lap that was set the previous time around by Tony Villander. But still, it appears to be nothing to choose between his Porsche and the Ferrari. Hey, how often we've said that in sports car racing, Porsche versus Ferrari. A tremendous battle here. And only, a couple of seconds or so behind them now is Daniel Morad in third place. And Daniel Kowitz trying to reduce that deficit as well. But another good lap there for Morad. His best lap of the race, a 1:12.8, fending off that challenge from Kowitz and the Callaway Corvette.
Well, you look at Daniel Morad there, that number 2, De Vilbus CRP Racing, Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 car, front engine V8, twin turbocharged, just a beautiful car. And then this flat 6 Porsche, the new V8 twin turboed Ferrari. And it's kind of weird to hear. You don't hear the Ferrari anymore. You used to be able to hear that nice whine out of the V8s of these Ferraris. They put the turbos on now, and it's virtually silent coming down the straightaway.
It is, and Kowitz, having got past Michael Christensen now, is pulling away pretty rapidly. Pulled away about half a second on Christensen that last lap, and he reduced the deficit to Morad by about the same amount. So that Callaway Corvette really is very, very fast. And he's just, 3 or 4 car lengths behind him as they head through that turn 4-5 complex.
And you saw Daniel Morad and then the Callaway of Kowitz right behind him, on that straightaway, kind of go to the right and then back to the left again. There's a really bad bump right there in a transition. You can drive over it, but it really unsettles the car, and no reason to do it. He's not really protecting to the inside going into turn 4. It's just that really bad bump on the exit of 3 on the straightaway where cars will shy away from that a little bit. And you'll see a lot of the GT and the GT4 machine coming up next that'll be doing that each time.
Already lapping at record pace here, record race pace. The previous race lap record was set a couple of years ago by Nick Katzberg in a Lamborghini Gallardo at 1:13.1. Well, all but one of the cars have lapped faster than that during this race. The lead now for Scott Hargrove extended a little bit on that lap over Tony Villander. A gap of about 2.5 seconds back to Morad in third place, and Daniel Karlowitz less than half a second behind that Mercedes in fourth with that Callaway Corvette.
Wow, you can see the sparks shooting off the sides of Daniel Morad's Mercedes every bump that he hits. With the ride height on that Mercedes, they got some steel planks on the bottom edges of the car to protect the bodywork, and that's the sparks you see. No harm, no foul there. I think they might want to try to just maybe adjust the ride height a little bit up, but these are set ride heights, what you're allowed to run, so it's kind of hard to adjust what you can. You can always raise the car above the minimums, but you want to try to run as close to the minimum as you can. Got word from pit lane, nothing wrong with the car, just hitting those stops in the metal as he goes over the bumps. That's
certainly good news, and the pace at the front here is really tight, really fast. Daniel Karlowitz has set the fastest lap of the race, 1:12.189, a new lap record, but the last 2 laps by Scott Hargrove have both been a 1:12.2. He comes across the line here again on this next lap. It's faster again, it's a new lap record for our race leader Scott Hargrove, a 1:12.059. He extends his lead over Tony Villander. It's now pretty close to 2 seconds. In the meantime, the battle for third rages on. Daniel Morad holding on just ahead of Daniel Karlowitz.
And still, he protected that inside groove a little bit down the straightaway, but Karlowitz was perfectly great to stay right behind him as our AM battle heats up coming down the straightaway here. You see Yuki Hirata in his Lamborghini. Rodrigo Baptista has closed that 6-second gap right behind the Lamborghini, but we're still watching this third place battle overall with Daniel Morad and Daniel Karlowitz. The battle of the Daniels. Who's it going to be here? Is that Callaway Corvette looking down to the inside, kind of breathing the nose a little bit. You got to think he has the power on the straightaway, Jeremy. If he can stay with that, these cars are kind of aero-dependent. You get the nose and the air off that splitter. It kind of helps the handling, but if he can stay right there, he's going to get that draft down the straightaway and make that move into turn 1.
Yeah, that's what Daniel Morad has got to really concentrate on, getting a good exit to turn 13 and 14 onto the straight. He did that lap, and they seem to be pretty closely matched as they head across start-finish line, but now I think the Corvette is going to come into its own. They head into the braking area, and Morad kind of feints toward the halfway across the racetrack to dissuade Karlowitz from making a move, but they're now almost side by side into turn 2. Karlowitz very sensibly there, backed off. Discretion very much the better part of valor.
Yeah, and Daniel Morad got in there a little too late. You saw him go a little bit wide. He came back to shut the door, kind of hurt that momentum of the Corvette a little bit. I think Daniel Karlowitz saw that come and got out of it to recover. Just 2 top-notch pro drivers here racing around for that third place in the GT category.
Yeah, he's made his mistakes early in the race as Karlowitz. He wants to make sure he doesn't make another one. He wants to bring that car home. If he can get a podium, great. There's still 10 minutes remaining in this race, so plenty of time yet to be another 8 or 9 laps in this race. So he's going to have some opportunities to make that pass, but he's got to work hard for it, that's for sure.
Got word from Reeves Callaway that the only piece that Corvette shares from the production Corvette is the rear view mirror covers on the outside of the car. So it is a real purpose-built GT3 car from Callaway Production Corvette Race Car GT3. So it's pretty neat to see that they build their own cars in-house. They're built over in Germany, I believe, and then shipped over here. And he's looking to move that stateside to get these cars built here in America. There's that bump we talk about, drivers driving around it. Daniel Morad's perfectly content just to stay there to the inside to not let Karlowitz give any ideas of going to the inside there in turn number 4.
Tony Villander in second place in that Ferrari. Just had his best lap of the race last time around, a 1 minute 12.402. But even that was not quite as quick as Hargrove, who extended his lead by another tenth of a second. So 1.9 seconds now between first and second. Tony Villander has got his work cut out if he's going to catch up to Hargrove and maybe wrest away the victory.
Well, we talk about the history that Scott Hargrove has had here at St. Petersburg, Florida, and that goes back to you, Jeremy Shaw, of course, with the open wheel stuff here. Sweeping, I believe, a couple rounds in 2013. He was on the podium here a couple years ago in Indy Lights. I mean, he knows his way around here.
Yeah, he does. He knows how to win here. That's important because it's a tricky track. Particularly, it's pretty cool this evening. And, there's not an awful lot of, track conditions are certainly good right now. The engines are breathing well. It's fairly cool. And there's not too much of a breeze. So, there's no danger of overheating the tyres, that's for sure. And Hargrove was able to push that car really, really hard and now turning some pretty consistent laps again at the front of the field and extending his lap. His lead over Villander is now out to over 2 seconds for the first time in this race.
Daniel Murad still able to hold off Kylowitz. It's 1:12.6 for Daniel Kylowitz, but the previous lap 1:12.2 for Murad. But like you said, the 0.4 of a second, you can just see that's the gap right there. He's got a little tiny bit of breathing room now, and I'm not sure if maybe Daniel Kylowitz could be saving something for the end here. Just a little less than 8 minutes to go in this race, or did he use up that car a little bit trying to work his way back through the field to get to where he needed to be?
Yeah, good point. Certainly Murad, though, is really stepping up to the plate here. That was his best lap on the last lap. That 1 minute 12.2. He comes across the line now. It's 1 minute 12.6. A couple of tenths quicker there, Kylowitz, on that lap, but not able to make an appreciable gain towards making that third position his own. It's currently in the hands of Daniel Murad, but Daniel Kylowitz hasn't given up yet. So he almost has the probably 2/3 of the length of that straight from turns 3 to 4 now between the 4th and 5th place cars. Michael Christensen, having made a great run in qualifying to start on the front row, was challenging for the lead in the early stages, but now he seems to be slipping back in that 5th position. Martin Fuentes pretty much out on his own in the lead of the AM category in 6th position in that Hublot Ferrari, car number 07. Rodrigo Baptista, though, he's doing his best to close in. He was about half a second faster on that last lap than Fuentes, but Baptista in 7th in the Bentley. He's got a deficit of about 11 seconds to make up, and with only 6.5 minutes remaining in this race, that's going to be a pretty tall order. And a good lap there from Hargrove, 1 minute 12.3, another couple of tenths of a second he pulls out over the veteran Tony Villander.
Well, and Daniel Murad has done a great job of not placing that Mercedes in harm's way there through turn number 1. He's given drivers the room each and every time somebody's looked to the inside. That time he knew that he didn't have a good run, was able to close the door. But good heads-up driving, keeping it clean is Murad in that De Vilbiers Mercedes, doing a superb job holding off Daniel Kylowitz here in that Callaway Corvette as they come down through turn number 5 and 6 onto the back section of the course here through the soccer stadium area.
Yeah, and in terms of ultimate pace, there's very little to choose between those top 4 cars. Fastest lap of the race set by our race leader, Scott Hargrove, 1 minute 12.0. And 1 minute 12.1 for Kylowitz, 1:12.2 for Murad. The best of Tony Villander, the pole sitter, could manage a 1:12.4. A little bit surprising, having had the legs of everybody in each of the sessions prior to the race.
Scott Hargrove doing a good job here as Murad go down to the inside. And that's the biggest gap that Daniel's had coming down the straightaway now. Man, I got to think that something's going on with that Corvette to where it might have just been used up just a little bit here, overworked that car, or himself trying to catch up to Murad in the field here and made a shot for that 3rd and final podium spot. But to get out of street circuit really unscathed, I think, for him. I don't think he's got any damage or any contact, but then to get up there and be in 4th place, not a bad result. But Scott Hargrove, that Castro Pfaff Automotive Porsche 911 GT3R, kind of taking the reins here over from
the Wright Motorsports team is the Porsche contingent with Allegro Motorsports now as well here in Pirelli World Challenge. So leading that, and a great shot with that Hublot Ferrari. Martin Fuentes, your 2016 Pirelli World Challenge GTA champion, returning here in that 488 GT3, leading over Rodrigo Baptista and Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and Martin Fuentes, he's already gained a new lap record for GTA. That stood to Alec Udell last year. This race was classified as an AM. The next race he wasn't. He became a pro shortly thereafter. But the old GTA race lap record, 114.770. Martin Fuentes' best lap in this race is a 112.832, fractionally quicker than Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley. Those are really good laps.
Yeah, tattooing that lap record over 2 seconds. Correct?
Absolutely. I mean, they are quicker than the outright GT lap record coming into this weekend.
That tells you a lot about the technology, this Pirelli P0 tire racelik and what they use to develop this tire worldwide. All the global GT cars that are on Pirelli rubber all run this same Pirelli P0 tire. So the Pirelli engineers able to look at all the data and all the engineering into these cars and these tires and develop this global tire now. And that really shows how fast these cars are becoming, where each and every racetrack we go to, we're setting lap records after lap records, qualifying records, race records. It's really a great time to be a GT fan of sports cars here at Pirelli World Challenge.
Certainly is. Less than 3 minutes to go now in this race for Scott Hargrove as he comes across the line one more time. A 1 minute 12.6 that time for our race leader. That time matched by Tony Villander in second place. A little bit of a gap back to the third and fourth place position. Daniel Karbit seems now to be just putting the pressure again on Daniel Morad. He really does want that third place, but he also wants to make sure he doesn't do anything silly in trying to gain that position.
Well, that lap by, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Morad. We'll see if he can maintain that pace. He was only about 0.2 of a second slower than his overall best lap. So perhaps he wasn't losing anything. He was just saving here till the end, because it looks like by the time they cross the line, we should have about 2 more laps to go here in this race. Don't think we'll get the white flag this time. It is timed races, so time does have to either expire before they cross the line again to get that white flag. If there's greater time than what the lap is, it'll be another lap, and then they'll get the white flag.
Indeed so. I think you're right. They will complete this lap, and it'll be the white flag next time around for our race leader, Scott Hargrove. What a performance this has been by the Canadian. Absolutely picture perfect for the 23-year-old. Lives now in Tsawwassen, British Columbia, in the Vancouver area. It's been an absolutely superb drive. He took advantage of the opportunity that was given to him. Having had that incident this morning, took the lead, and now is pulling away from Tony Villander in second place.
Yeah, not a better way to reward that FAF Automotive crew than all the hard work they did. And I got a chance to go into that truck and see the work going on the car. And I kind of walked in. I looked at the car, saw maybe a dozen crew members in varying jobs doing different things. Scott Hargrove was vacuuming the inside of the car out. I mean, it was that they were that intense to get it done. I said, I don't think now's a good time to go ask how they're doing. So I kind of stepped back, and that was how it was right to the last minute to get that car ready.
Yeah, I'm sure Scott, I didn't get a chance to see Scott after the qualifying incident this morning, but he would have been crushed by that. He would have been very disappointed in himself for making that mistake, causing all that damage to the car. And so I have no doubt you're right. He would have been in there in the trenches trying to making sure that car, doing whatever he could to help the mechanics prepare that car for the race.
Well, 1 lap to go for Scott Hargrove in that Castrol Fast Porsche 911 GT3R. Tony Villander gets his final lap sitting in second. Daniel Morad in third, and Daniel Kylewicz fall back a little bit now into fourth as Michael Christensen crossed the line in fifth. I'm going to head down to pit lane. We'll talk to our winners. Close it out for us there, Jeremy Shaw. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jeff Lepper. We'll speak to you in a few minutes from Victory Circle. In the meantime, Scott Hargrove has about another mile and a bit to go as he's through turns 4, turn 5. Going to be very, very careful through here. He knows he's got a pretty handy advantage now. It's extended to over 3.5 seconds only over Tony Villander, who's clearly settled for second place this day. So Scott Hargrove has just got to bring it home. The top 4 cars pretty much evenly spaced at the moment, with Daniel Morad having pulled away from Daniel Karbit on that last lap. last couple of laps, and so he's not really under pressure at all for third place. But this afternoon, it's been all about Scott Hargrove, 23-year-old, a former champion in the USF 2000 Championship, and it's been an absolutely superb performance. He put a wheel wrong this morning perhaps, but no hint of that this afternoon, and the checker flags are waving. Scott Hargrove comes across the line to take the victory in the opening round of this year's Pirelli World Challenge. A tremendous debut victory both for him and for Pfaff Motorsports. Tony Villander in second place, Daniel Maurer, the second of the Canadians, in third place. And in fourth is Daniel Kalwitz in a Callaway Corvette from Germany. And from Denmark, Michael Christensen takes the checkered flag in the fifth position for Allegra Motorsports. Waiting now for our AM winner to make his appearance. Martin Fuentes took full advantage of that incident on the first lap in that patriotically covered Mexican liveried flag colours on this car, and Martin Fuentes takes the checkered flag. He will come home with the victory, the champion 2 years ago in GTA, and he's got his 2018 season off to a perfect start with another victory here in GTA. Rodrigo Baptista brings across the Bentley Continental in second place, and in third will be Yuki Hirata from Japan in the Dream Motorsport Racing Lamborghini Huracan GT3. Our race leaders on the cool down lap now. Tony Villander, he gave Hargrove all he could manage and all he could handle in the middle portion of the race, but Scott Hargrove kept his cool. Looked like he might have made a mistake on one lap. All of a sudden, the gap that had been gradually extending was whittled down again to just a few car lengths. But Hargrove kept his composure, put his head down, and just turned a series of really, really fast laps. And that's what it enabled him to come home with an absolutely superb victory here this afternoon. And what a tremendous way to start the season, and what a great way to repay all the hard work that Pfaff Motorsports team has done over the 6 hours since qualifying earlier on this morning. He was fast yesterday, Hargrove. He was second in each of the practice sessions, making his presence felt and taking advantage of all the track time he's had here in St. Petersburg in the past. And he'll bring that car onto the pit lane now and head towards Victory Circle. And Jeff Lepper will be down there to accept him and hand out all the victory laurels. A tremendous drive. It really was impressive. To come under the sort of pressure he was from the veteran that is Tony Villander says a lot for Scott Hargrove. He might only be... he's still young, isn't he, Scott Hargrove? He's just 23 years of age, but he drove like a veteran today. Let's run down the order then. The top 10. Scott Hargrove comes home with a victory. In second place, Tony Villander. Daniel Morad in third place for Mercedes. The Callaway Corvette of Daniel Kalwitz in fourth, ahead of Michael Christensen in the Porsche. Then the Ferrari of Martin Fuentes, the GTA winner, ahead of Rodrigo Baptista in the Bentley. Yuki Hirata in the Lamborghini rounds out the field of finishers. Not taking the checkered flag. Spencer Pompelli in the Aston Martin. Alvaro Parent in the second of the K-Pax Flying Lizard Bentleys. And also Parker Chase in the True Speed Autosport Audi, unable to complete even the first lap of this race. But it's they'll have another opportunity tomorrow. Hopefully they can get all those cars fixed and be out on the grid for tomorrow's race. That'll be one to watch tomorrow afternoon. There's going to be plenty more action. I think that was a tremendous race. It shows that you don't need to have huge fields to have exciting races. We only started with 11. We were down to 8 at the end of the first lap. But this whole field put on an absolutely tremendous race in the opening round of the Pirelli World Challenge. These cars will be out in action again after the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg tomorrow afternoon for round 2 of the championship. The GT cars will be out at 3:15 tomorrow afternoon. And certainly Scott Hargrove will be looking to complete his perfect weekend if he possibly can. But Tony Villander, he will look to make amends. Having started from the pole position today, he had to make do with second place. And the grid for tomorrow's race will be set, as we said earlier on, by the fastest lap set during today's race. That honour also falling to Scott Hargrove. So it will be he in at number 96 Pfaff Motorsports Porsche that will start on the pole position tomorrow afternoon. I think on the front row with him will be Daniel Karlowitz in the Callaway Corvette, car number 26. Good old American V8 muscle power in that Callaway Corvette. That will start on the front row of the grid. Row 2, I believe, will be Daniel Morad, who actually turned a faster lap than Tony Villander, today's pole sitter. So a bit of a disappointing day for Tony Villander. Massive amount of experience in Porsches, driven them all over the world for a large number of years. But having earned the pole position this morning, he'll be a little bit disappointed with second place, and particularly knowing he will have to start 4th tomorrow afternoon. The GTS race is due to take the flag in about 15 minutes or so. We'll have to get the GT cars out of the way first of all. And before that, we'll try and get down to Victory Lane with Jeff Lepper. So we'll join Jeff in just a few moments.